everyone. Welcome to Pop Pop Fizzle. I'm Heidi.
I'm Jeff.
And today we're going to be talking about the 10th, 11th, and 12th episodes of Jessica Jones.
That's correct.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't count for a second.
Yeah, the first episode that we're looking at is AKA Pork Chop. Now, again, if you are watching this video, we assume that you have seen all of Jessica Jones Season 2. We are talking spoilers in this discussion. We're just going through, kind of going over our notes and letting you know what we thought about things, but we also want to hear what you think. So when we're done looking at these 3 episodes, be sure and comment below. Let us know what you thought in these last 3 episodes before the finale, which was episode 13. That will have its own separate video that we'll upload after this, but we want to talk about these 3 episodes now. Again, starting with episode 10.
Okay, AKA Pork Chop.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it opens up, and we last left Jessica's mom and Jessica, where Alyssa had turned herself in.
Right.
And we are seeing them in jail. Jerry is there with them, and there's a deal on the table.
Yeah. It's almost like Jessica doesn't know any other attorneys, but we know that she does.
She does. He actually showed up, at least his associate showed up earlier on in the season, Foggy.
So I'm not sure what the draw is to Jerry,
except
that she's as corrupt as can be, and she's willing to do anything. She
also wins. I mean, she said so, and she has, and she does. So
I suppose.
So if you really want some heavy muscle in the attorney legal field, that's pretty much who you would call.
We get the Raft name dropped again. The Raft in Marvel Comics being a prison for superpowered individuals. Mm-hmm. I believe that I'm making the connection between that and what Tony Stark took the folks to in Civil War.
Yes.
Sort of underwater
or
thing.
Floating thing.
Well, it was underwater and then it came up.
Okay, yeah.
So
it's
definitely
like a place for powered people.
So I think that was kind of a reference to that. Her mother's not been taken there at this point. But we also get a mention in there that powered people don't have the same rights as everybody else, or at least that's how they're looking at it as of right now. I think because the universe is so new to all of that.
Yeah, they just don't
know
what to do.
They're not sure what to do.
Yeah.
And so as of now, powers equals no rights,
no
basically.
Rights, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
We see Trish going to do her sizzle reel with ZCN, which was a follow-up from the last episode.
And it was...
And as we predicted, it was terrible. She's coming off the rails. In withdrawal from whatever the was.
Not any of the over the top sort of withdrawal symptoms, but it's clear that she is off her game, and there's just no way that anybody would hire her. So
yeah. I almost had a glimmer of hope for Malcolm in this episode.
Almost.
After all of the nonsense with Trish, he has that moment where he's calling her on her nonsense.
Yeah.
And he basically says, "Look, I can't be with you. You've got a hole in your soul, and what that's going to do to me, I can't be a part of that." So he kind of calls her on that.
And then she even asks, "Well, I mean, we're still friends, right?"
Yeah, and he's like, "No." So I was kind of like, "Well, good for Malcolm, standing up for himself, doing what's right for him."
Yeah.
And it doesn't last very long.
No.
Unfortunately,
but you could see. I mean, that's also very typical. He's, trying to stick to his sobriety and trying to stick to, what he has learned is better for him, even though he still has made some horrible decisions. But we digress.
Yeah, we get to see Trish. Or I'm sorry. We get to see Jessica finally dealing with some emotion. She lets go of a few tears. And we see, sort of that she does like the soup enough that she's willing to be a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that was nice to see. But I found myself, and I even made the note, can Jessica have a healthy relationship? Is that something she's even capable of doing? And I think that's kind of one of the questions that gets asked a lot in this season. Yeah. Not just with Jessica, but with everyone involved.
What is normal life, really?
Yeah, they're making terrible decisions all over the place. And they suck other people into their terrible decisions.
Yes.
and then those people make their own terrible decisions, and it just all rolls downhill.
It just all sucks.
Yeah, so that seems to be kind of an underlying question, I felt like. Trish found out a little bit about what she was inhaling.
Yeah, and that it was incredibly toxic.
Yeah,
What a shock.
Totally poison. Who knew?
Oh, what a
Who
shock.
knew that the mystery substance in the inhalant could be bad for her?
You know, she denies wanting to reproduce the inhaler itself, which I don't know. I think maybe at the time when she called, she may have wanted that, and then maybe kind of where she is when she goes to find out more about it, it may not be what she made. Her plan may be evolving at this time.
Yeah.
So.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Trish's arc in this season.
I can't even tell you how many times we're just like, we don't like her.
I thought the coded conversations between Jessica and her mom
were interesting.
Were done well, mainly because they don't have the kind of background that most people would have in order to have those kind of conversations. So it just shows that both of them sort of have a natural talent for...
Yeah, I mean, they're both very smart.
Very smart for figuring things out, and so they're able to have conversations even in front of the guards that... in a coded conversation. We find out that Dr. Carl actually was married to Elisa, at least in some sort of
fashion. I mean, like
not legally.
I mean, she was dead, so it wasn't.
But
really
as far as he was concerned,
and as far as Alyssa was concerned, they considered themselves married. So, I guess an odd sort of turn for their relationship, considering where it started out. But they both seemed pretty committed to it.
And we find out from Dr. Carl, as he's talking to Jessica, something that I kind of wondered about. I hated to think that was the way it was going to go, but I sort of suspected that Shane, not the healer he was purported to be, so basically Inez and Jerry, Inez had been helping con Jerry with Shane, and then she goes home and finds all of her things taken.
Gone. And the thing is, I hadn't wondered if he was a fraud necessarily. I had wondered if they were working together, that it was some sort of long game, and it was, I hadn't really said very much. It was just kind of in the back of my mind, and Jeff called it and was totally right.
And I actually, for half a second, I actually felt bad for Jerry, and I didn't think that was possible. I find Jerry to be fairly despicable, but I mean,
she's been showing us more of her human side this season, as opposed to the evil attorney or the the strong figure instead of the person. So I think.
But she went almost immediately back to being unlikable for me. Like it didn't. She had a moment where I felt bad for her while she wept on the floor. And after that, I was kind of over it.
Yeah.
I really think, and I made a note and boxed it in here, that Jessica actually likes the soup. Like, to me, that's a big thing for her, that she actually likes somebody. And it's not about running from her problems via sex or via whatever else. It's literally like, I think she likes him. And
you keep saying the soup, and I keep thinking about a bowl of soup. The super.
Oscar. Yeah.
Okay.
Oscar, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, couldn't remember his name. Yeah, so she actually likes Oscar and likes his son enough that as we'll find out in the next couple of episodes, she's actually kind of protective and kind of doesn't want to drag them into her nonsense. So
she wants to,
so I thought that was
protect
good.
Them. Again, her nature is to protect.
We'll get to the ending of this episode, which was a big cliffhangery moment. But the notion that Trish shows up again at Malcolm's store, and the note that I made, and it was kind of a sad note for me to make, especially because I genuinely liked Trish the first season, and was really grossed out by her mom and all of that stuff, and her mom was using her or whatever. But in this episode and in this season as a whole, I think Trish is as much of a manipulator as her mother is.
Oh, well, she learned from that.
She's the fruit is not fallen far from the tree.
As much as she would want to think so.
And so the way that she manipulates Malcolm and the way that she does that, it's just like so awful.
Yeah, and my note again was Trish plus Malcolm equals ew. Because I mean, as watchers of the show, we can kind of see their intentions, their set points, where they're really coming from in the situation, and we, going into it, we knew that Trish was not on the up and up, and she was absolutely using Malcolm in this point.
Right.
At this
now,
point.
this episode ends with a big moment, which was set up by a subplot in the episode involving Jess's mom and her new security guard in the prison guard, Dale, who actually seemed kind of like a somewhat decent guy right at the first, and then they gave us this weird turn.
Yeah, just the first things that he was saying was like, okay, you're trying to get to know her.
Seemed humane, seemed
telling
decent.
her about his grandparents and his parents, and how he's turned his life around.
And then we see that he's going to push her, including putting shackles on her that will shock her whenever he decides she needs a shock.
Yeah.
And basically, he force feeds her. She tells him she doesn't eat meat. He force feeds her meat. And does all this stuff. Of course, Jessica finds out about this.
Yeah. And
her intention, I think, is to find some dirt on him.
Yeah.
And to, out him so that he's, so that her mother's safe from him.
Just fired or, removed from the situation. Just something to get him out of her sphere.
Instead, the episode ends with him finding Jessica in his house looking for this proof. She does find out.
She does find proof.
He has basically manipulated and pushed and oppressed prisoners into committing suicide. He's pushed them to the breaking point, and he's collected their prison numbers like trophies, and has stored them away in an actual hunting trophy as well. So he startles her, catches her off guard, and begins to beat her with a nightstick. And
after spraying her eyeballs,
after spraying her, yes,
yeah, she can't see.
He sprays her with pepper spray and knocks her down and keeps beating her with the nightstick. And then at some point, she finally grabs hold of the nightstick and lashes out blindly.
Yeah.
Only to find that she's killed Dale.
Yeah.
So after all of the false sort of murder accusations that she's had to deal with,
she accidentally
suddenly she finds herself actually having committed a murder.
Yeah, I have here, oops.
Yeah, and that is the point the episode ends. Then we move into what for me was the standout episode of the season.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Which was AKA 3 Lives and Counting. And it picks up immediately after the previous episode with Jessica standing in the home of the home of Dale, whom she's just killed. He's laying there on the floor, blood everywhere, blood on her, and she begins to hear all these voices, accusations from herself. You killed him. You should have known better. Your own strength. And all this and all these things. And then right at the end of this sort of choir of voices, we hear David Tennant's Kilgrave. And it's just for that minute. Yeah. And then she begins to clean up
on
the
his
scene.
Suggestion. On the voice in her head suggestion.
She begins to clean up the murder scene and setting it up to look as though he's committed suicide, including throwing his body down as if he threw himself off the roof.
Head first.
And so then we get this question, because Kilgrave then emerges as someone that she's seeing for brief moments at a time. And, at the beginning of the episode, I'm like, okay, so is he a figment
or is he really there?
Of her imagination? Is he her guilt personified? Because she did kill him as well, so there's a connection. Or is our crazy wild theory that Kilgrave somehow managed to escape death in the first season and is manipulating and messing with Jessica's head actually what's happening?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be the case here. But David Tennant as Kilgrave, just as creepy.
Spectacular.
Yeah, as he was in the first season.
Yeah.
Stood out because it's hard to play creepy and dangerous and yet still have some charming humor, whatever. And so you feel all these weird things when you're watching him. Like you love every second that he's on screen, but you also know that he's like scary, despicable.
Yes.
And so I kudos to David Tennant. We've liked him and everything anyway, but kudos to him for finding the right note with Kilgrave and really driving it home, and for having only, spoilers, this episode to deal with and to work in. He did it so well, and every second he was on screen was just awesome.
Yeah, it was just definitely spectacular. It was really interesting to kind of hear him. It was, I mean, I think just kind of early on we figured out that it wasn't really him. He wasn't really there. He was really in Jessica's mind.
I heard Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket?
Yeah. Like the voice of her conscience.
Sort of. No, yeah, kind of. Yeah, definitely that. But, like, we just kind of, he's still just as crazy. So, you gotta wonder how crazy Jessica really is sometimes to be able to come up with very convincing crazy from him.
Well, and I made a note. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, but he was, he was also just kind of her internal monologue at some points, kind of doing PI things, reminding her of stuff that she should be paying attention to as a PI.
And on that note, I had made a note here that he seemed to at times think of things before Jessica did and lead her in the right direction. He said, it even shows you how far away these girls are from him.
Right.
Or whatever, which led her to think, if I ask them how far away he is, I can triangulate Malcolm's position. And so I thought, well, that's interesting because she hadn't thought of that yet, at least as far as
conscious thought.
And yet he says it before that, so clearly her subconscious working stuff out before she consciously thought of it. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that was definitely.
And it made him seem even more malevolent, kind of, because it's like he's not really just her thought. He's something else in there.
Yeah.
He's something else lurking in there.
Just kind of there.
Yeah. Hands down, the craziest, dumbest moment of this episode, and in a great episode, was Trish pulling a gun on Malcolm. She'd already knocked him out, which was in and of itself stupid.
Yeah.
She's taken Dr. Carl at this point. We don't know really what she wants, but we assume is to have him make more of the inhaler. That turns out to be a mislead. But Malcolm doesn't know this. Malcolm confronts her, and she even takes a shot at his feet. Like she's, you're right, I won't kill you, but I'm not going to let you stop me either. Losing her mind.
Yeah, absolutely losing her mind.
Jessica shows up not quite in time to catch her.
Which I'm just like, you just stopped a bus like just a couple episodes back and you jumped out a window to get closer to that car. You should have been able to get to that car, Jess. Sorry, but I don't know, maybe just kind of being caught off guard was enough for her to just not be the reflexes enough to get there. Of course, one of my favorite things in this episode was Kilgrave singing the Cray Cray song, which is just, awful and awesome at the same time. Really.
Oh, yeah. And he seemed to be delighting in his torturing of Jessica, which made absolute sense. And, yeah. We mentioned, or they mentioned in the episode, thanks to Malcolm, we find out that Trish and Dr. Carl had gotten medicine or gotten something from a veterinary clinic. We find out that it was a cat distemperament medicine or some sort of vaccination or something.
Yeah, some with a live virus in it.
With a live virus in it, and then some other things. And so I made the note, path to Hellcat, ?
Yeah.
So, clearly that was going to have something to do with it.
Yeah, some sort of effect.
Then we have when Jessica finally catches up with Trish and Dr. Carl. Dr. Carl's already started a procedure, which is apparently to make Trish or Patsy into someone super. So clearly this Hellcat path is the way that we're going with this character at this point. We see Jess arrive in the middle. She clearly is freaked out by what's happening, thinks that Dr. Carl's going to kill her.
Well, I mean, he may not have been intentionally trying to, but just
goes off the deep end and breaks through, and we have Kilgrave basically baiting her and pushing her to just kill him, that he's just going to keep doing this stuff, and it's not that anything he's saying is wrong, except that he's calling her a killer and saying, this is your nature, do what you're meant to do, all that kind of thing, which is everything that she fears. So that's her fear talking.
She doesn't want to do that,
and she is finally able to resist that, break free. Dr. Carl decides to end himself and his experimentation. Jessica gets Trish out of there post-haste, and Dr. Carl blows
himself to
the place up. And then we get Trish at the hospital. They're not sure whether she's going to live or die. we have Jessica having a final conversation with Kilgrave, basically to let go of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I believe he leaves her with some words, or she leaves him with some words, something about that she'll see him around, or he'll see her around, or something.
I think, yeah, he does.
So yeah, so we'll see what that means, if anything. And then the episode ends with Alyssa in prison. Finding out that Dr. Carl is dead, which of course makes her lose it completely.
I actually really worried about that new guard of hers, Marilyn. I was like, oh.
Yeah, because she was being so nice to her.
She was so nice to her, and she was, she didn't have to be as nice to her as she was, and they kind of bonded a little bit, and I was just like, yeah, after that last guard, she's really decent. I hope she's okay. So we don't get to see that, but I'm sure if she's clearly dead, I think they would have showed her clearly dead.
Yeah, so. They didn't show. I mean, they showed her get thrown, but they didn't show any real damage to her. So
so just maybe she's knocked unconscious. I hope so. Marilyn, you're awesome.
And if not, pour one out for Marilyn.
Yeah.
So, and then that leads us into the penultimate episode, which is AKA Pray for Patty.
Pray for my Patsy.
Sorry, yes. This is me after not enough sleep.
Yeah, same.
And not enough caffeine. Okay.
Yes.
So, yes, AKA Pray for my Patsy. I can't hear the name Patsy without thinking of the Jerry Lewis movie, Patsy. Oh. And so I hear Patsy not as a name, but as like an insult.
Yeah,
so
but it kind of fits though at this time.
Yeah,
I want to consider the character that we've seen this season really to be Patsy and not Trish. Trish was last season. This is Patsy.
Maybe that's true. But the hero that we should be getting out of this whole thing is Patsy Walker. So I don't know.
Maybe we're getting Patsy. We're not getting Trish, who tried to get away from her mom and be a person for herself.
Maybe.
And we're getting Patsy, who wants the power.
But I would like to think that Patsy would be the better one. But that's just me, because that's who she is in the comics. Okay, anyway.
Digression. It's okay.
Interesting little note that I made here was that one of the doctors mentions while they're working on Patsy that there are lots of back alley doctors preying on people who want powers. I thought that was interesting, and I'm wondering if that was sort of a tee up for something that's going to be happening in another Netflix season. If not Jessica Jones and maybe Luke Cage or something else. The notion that there are people that want power so badly that they're paying people to experiment on them.
Well, I mean, we saw that kind of in Luke Cage when he went up against that other guy who had gotten himself some sort of powers.
And there's a Marvel Comics character called the Power Broker. That's his whole deal. Is that if you pay him enough money or you work for him for a certain amount of time,
he'll find you somebody.
He'll give you powers. And there was like back in the day there was like an unlimited world-class wrestling thing. So the Power Broker would give them powers, and then you'd have these big super powered, no holds barred matches or whatever that all the rich people would pay and watch or whatever. It was a whole big thing. But yeah, the Power Broker, lots of people in Marvel Comics have gotten their powers from the Power Broker.
Okay, interesting.
Villains and heroes alike. So I thought that was an interesting notion.
Yeah.
We see Alyssa walking the streets of New York looking for Patsy because she knows that Patsy had something to do with Carl's death, and I made the note that just seeing her walking down the street with normal people is like a bull in a china shop, because it's just like one wrong thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell she's restraining herself, but it's like...
It's going to send her into a rage and people are going to...
Yeah, she's not suited to be around people, and especially if she's got... she's starting to hone in on that one thing she's going to be focused on. Everyone else is just a distraction in the way. They're in danger because of her.
Yeah.
So, just a note for all the medical people out there. I hope everyone was paying attention to Patsy.
You always catch the medical things.
Well, yeah, I do. I mean...
She's a nurse, if you didn't know.
Okay, well, there you go. I've been outed. It's fine. But in any case, I always just kind of have to wonder about... medical shows, I'm sure, have people on board who are just kind of references and, advisors. But for shows that have people who land in hospitals, I would suggest just go ahead and while you're putting together the scripts and the, the things that you need for your set dressings, just make sure you have the right equipment. Patsy had an IV in her arm. It was a butterfly. Come on, guys. That's not for actually delivering fluids, even though it said that they were going to be having fluids delivered to her. Okay. Rant aside.
Pet peeve.
Pet peeve.
Gotcha.
Please just use the right equipment. Hire a freaking nurse and just say, is this what goes here? And they'll say to you, yes, or no, you need to fill in the blank here, and you will get the right equipment.
Well, but then the answer may have been, well, we don't have one of those. And they could be like, oh, okay, well, then we'll rig this up to look like this. You know.
If they could have gotten the wrong equipment, they could have gotten the right equipment. So it's not very hard. Anyway, that's my digression. And always a pet peeve. If you are using the wrong medical equipment, I will find it, I will see it, I will call it out, and I will poke fun.
Yeah. I made a note that I'm really glad that Detective Costa, every time he appears, he's a good guy.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
he is not
even when he's not a fan of how Jessica's handling things, he's still a good guy. He's still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. He's still hoping for the best with her.
Okay, so
it's super easy for them to sort of stereotype a cop into being hard-nosed.
So thank you, writers, for not giving us the very stereotypical scummy cop that doesn't want to believe in our hero.
Right.
We got those already. This is one that is good. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, so Jerry is trying to track down her stolen stuff herself. We see her calling around to pawn shops trying to find out where they may have fenced.
And I just thought that was really funny. She was naming up, all of these very high-end names for things. I'm like, on one hand, you would think that a pawn shop owner would probably know what the highest end thing is that they could get for certain items. But on the other end, I was thinking, they're so not going to know what she's talking about because these are pawn shops. People don't generally sell the high-end stuff there. So.
Well, and I didn't know half of the things that she mentioned.
There were a couple that I didn't recognize, but I was like, even so, this is where the script researching actually comes into play, and I trust that stuff. And I was just like, no, they're not going to know what these things are. And sure enough, she kind of calls them out. She's like, you're too stupid to even know what these things are.
All right.
Okay. Fair enough. No offense, pawn shop owners.
Mama Jones shows up at the hospital. She attacks Trish. Jessica gets in the way of that, of course.
Of course.
And at one point, she's using Jessica's own arm to try to cut off Trish's breath, which I thought was particularly terrible.
Yes, and it worked.
Yeah, it was working. She was going downhill fast.
Yeah.
And then at one point, when she finally, throws them off the bed and Jessica lands on the floor with Trish, she had a great line, I felt like, and it was the line that worked at getting through to her mother, which was about taking her family away. And she said, "Don't do this to me again."
Again. That was, that's the word that you need to underline in that sentence. Don't do this to me again.
Right. Which breaks through to her mother. Her mother probably was going to leave that situation and bolt out of there. Unfortunately, detectives Costa and Sunday arrive. And Sunday has been dogmatic throughout the series. She's not willing to give people a chance or hear anything out. So she, and you can't blame her in this situation because they know that she's there to kill Trish and all of that. But Mama Jones, Alyssa, grabs Detective Sunday. Sunday's telling Costa, go ahead and shoot her, take the shots, risk it. Or whatever. Costa won't do that, and can't blame him for that.
No.
His partner's head was very close, so not really a shot he could afford to take. But then Alyssa drops out of the window with Detective Sunday.
And using her as the cushion, the spongy cushion that she could fall on and walk away.
Yeah.
And we see that Sunday.
Jessica screams no, runs to the window. She and Costa see Detective Sunday down below. And Mama Jones gone.
Yep.
R.I.P. Detective Sunday.
Sorry, man.
Pour one out.
Yep.
Have an interesting conversation. Earlier in the episode, we had almost a decent conversation between Dorothy, right? That's Trish's mom?
Yes.
Between Dorothy and Jessica.
I was really surprised by this because,
where Dorothy's like, listen, we're the only family she has, and she saw you as this example of power. You can't blame her for wanting to be like you or whatever, and I don't blame her for that. And you kind of it's like, oh, okay. And she even hugs Jessica, and Jessica kind of doesn't know how to respond to all that.
This is just
but it's not even a few minutes later.
Well, but it was right after Alyssa tries to kill Trish, and immediately she goes.
Dorothy goes off, and
it's all Jessica's fault. Yeah. Every time.
And Jessica, of course, is right to say, listen, they wouldn't have known where she was if you hadn't have been on television blabbing about her.
Yeah,
And Dorothy mentions that her brand is her legacy, that it's important. And Jessica had a great line, which is, "You can't stop selling your own daughter, even if it kills her."
Mm-hmm. And it's true. Yeah, I mean.
So Dorothy really is the ultimate stage mom. She's like that person to infinity.
Even what she said, she's like, you made me so proud of you. You did all the things that I couldn't do.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what kind of life she had before she had Trish.
Yeah.
But
and it's very similar to the dads who are into sports that were never the sports hero, and they drive their kids into, crazy headspaces because they're determined to push them. Mm-hmm. So we get that sort of in Dorothy, and really have since season 1. So they decide after that little thing to keep Trish in the morgue. We see her little morgue buddy wheeling out bodies to make space for her and everything.
Griping the whole time, which is just funny.
Actually, Jessica and Trish have an argument then. Well, Trish finally wakes up.
Yeah.
And it's all about power and insecurity.
Yeah.
And both of them. Both of them have their issues. Both of them have insecurities and issues with power.
Right.
Trish wants some. Jessica doesn't want hers. Trish feels insecure because she doesn't have power. Jessica feels insecure because she doesn't have family and doesn't know how any of that works.
Right.
So they both have these issues.
And I find it just kind of crazy that even after all this, Patsy still wants that power.
Yeah, it almost killed her.
It almost killed her several times, and she still
singularly
wants it.
focused.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we see that, so her mother calls, Jess's mother calls in that moment, and they set up a meeting for her and her mother at Trish's suggestion at Trish's apartment. I put a question mark by that. I wondered why, but then we find out that it's because Simpson's equipment is there. So lots of guns, lots of grenades, all that goodness, and so Trish thinks that would be the better place for a showdown.
Yeah.
Then we get a cameo from somebody that we haven't seen in this season.
Yeah.
We usually get, in most of these Netflix shows, we get, there are 2 people that tend to cameo or have, somewhat of a guest starring role, and that's either Claire Temple or Turk, or both.
So yeah, Claire.
No Claire in this season.
Conspicuously absent.
Yeah, but we get one cameo, one moment of Turk meeting with Jerry
and not getting his face punched in.
Yeah,
that's a move for Turk.
Yeah,
awesome, Turk.
Nice.
Go on you. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so we see kind of the. We're following Jerry's story also, and he gets her an untraceable gun, and so we see where she's going after that, and where we see her is to kind of confront Inez and Shane.
And I made the note when she bought the gun, because Turk said, "You're not the kind. I didn't think you were the kind of person to get your hands dirty," and that line made me write down the question. Jerry's looking for payback. Is Jerry going to convince Inez to kill Shane and then turn herself in, or is Jerry going to turn her in? So that ends up being exactly what happens.
Yeah.
That she convinces Inez
that Shane
was up to no good,
running around on her,
that he had other women that he was doing the same things with, and convinces Inez that he's dangerous, that there's no telling what he's up to. And that, she's just telling Inez this because in spite of everything Inez did to her, she still cares. And their time together meant something to her. And when Inez decides to go back in and confront him, she says he could be dangerous. You should take this. Gives her the gun, knowing how it's going to work. And then she just sits there waiting like she's bored, waiting for the sound of the gunshot.
I know, and the thing is, we were kind of too. It's like, how long is this going to take?
How long is it going to take her to kill this guy?
I mean, well, we're not rooting for anybody to be killed. However, we know how these things work, and we're just like, oh, it could be dangerous, take this. And so we were just like, okay.
Yeah, Jerry just stone cold waiting for all the pieces to fall.
Yeah, just kind of hanging out, and as soon as the gunshot and the tears come, she is on the phone making a report, which is like, well, it's kind of what Malcolm did to her partners also. So it's,
playing them against each other.
Yeah, so we kind of already saw that coming. But it's smart. Her hand, it's untraceable to her. She's not the one who pulled the trigger, and she got her revenge on both of them.
Yeah. Something wrong with Trish. In the morgue, she starts flipping out. Her body jerking all kinds of ways.
Seizures of I don't know what kind, but seizures.
Dorothy is there when all that starts going on. But even in her best, like even when she's actually worried about her daughter, she just strikes me as creepy.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah.
That's good acting, I guess, if you make me feel like you both simultaneously care about your kid, but you're also creepily attached and invested in their
brand.
So we set up sort of the finale where, you know, Jessica's mother, Alyssa, shows up to Trisha's apartment to meet with Jessica. And we see Jessica with a gun. It's going to come down to that. And she tells her mother, you're going to go to the raft or one of us dies tonight. These are the options.
Yeah, and of course, you know, just by the entirety of the season and what we know about Jessica's character, I knew she wasn't going to pull the trigger on her mother. That wasn't going to happen. And I think her mother knew it too.
Well, and we knew what it had done to her to just kill somebody that she didn't know, that she knew was completely evil and had killed other people, and she still felt a great deal of guilt about that.
Yeah,
so we knew that she wasn't going to kill her mother. So the question was, how was it going to end?
Yeah.
When her mother talks to her and basically says, you know, you can make me better. I can do this with you. I can change. I can be something that you're not seeing right now. Just help me. And Jessica, realizing that she can't do it, puts the gun down, and freakily fast.
Yeah.
Her mother jumps forward, grabs the gun, and hits her on the head with it and knocks her out.
Brains her.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that's not a good ending for this episode.
No.
Things are going downhill from here.
Yeah. And so
that wraps up those 3 episodes.
And so, like, you know, overall for these 3 episodes, I was definitely, you know, we saw at the end of episode 9 that her mom had turned herself in. We're like, what are they going to do with these last 4 episodes? How is this going to work out? How does David Tennant fit into all this? And so I can see how they managed to kind of pull out 4 more episodes here with kind of how they went through these 3 here. Very disappointed that our thought about David Tennant, you know, just kind of fooling everyone,
Admittedly, that would have been very comic booky and very over the top. I would have loved it because I like comics and I like them in all their crazy glory.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we can't see executives signing off on that sort of idea.
Yeah, and
not TV executives anyway. So.
Yeah. And it feels like, you know, it's just I had said that it would be kind of a ballsy move to make that kind of choice.
Yeah.
But I think it was equally ballsy to make the choice of not really having a villain of the season.
Yeah.
We have antagonists. Her mother was an adversary. She
antagonist.
Yeah, and an antagonist, but she wasn't a villain, a clear-cut villain. And I think that was an interesting way to frame the season. And to deal with Jessica's feelings about herself and her own powers and how does she fit and all that. And we'll talk about more of that when we talk about the finale. But overall, good setup. But out of these 3, my favorite by far was the one with Kilgrave's return. Even though he wasn't actually there in body, just his messing with Jessica, their chemistry together is great.
Yep.
And you could tell that they were probably really enjoying being back on the set together again and playing with those 2 characters again. And it really brought a breath of fresh air to this back half.
Yeah, just kind of a little bit of a turn, just kind of interesting. But, you know, for an episode following where Jessica had committed her worst fear, you know, to have him be the one in her head talking to her about that was definitely, I mean, that was spot on. Good job.
So we are going to take a break and we're going to end this video here, and then we'll be back to talk about the finale and our thoughts about the season as a whole. In the meantime, you comment below and let us know, what did you think of episodes 10, 11, and 12? Were you a fan of Kilgrave's return? Did you think the series would have been better served without him returning? Was it a distraction from the rest of the season? How did you feel about it? Let us know. And if you like this video,
hit that thumbs up.
That's right. And consider subscribing to the channel because it helps us to continue to do these things. This was a longer video. We don't normally spend this kind of time on something, but we didn't want to react to episode by episode by episode.
Yeah, we were talking about 3 episodes here. And you know, as you get later on in the season, there's more to analyze, kind of looking back on the episodes that we've seen so far. So even though we were focusing on 10, 11, and 12, you have to absolutely talk about how they fit in with everything else.
Yeah.
So, but that's I think it for now. Like he said, go ahead and like and comment below.
And if you're subscribed and you'd like to know the next time we drop a video, click the little bell icon so you can be notified the next time we drop something. Until we look at the finale together, bye.
Bye.